Welcome. If you're a thought leader, entrepreneur, and/or business owner, this video is just for you because we're going to be talking about the importance of practice. Not just practicing for sports, not just practicing to lift weights, not just practicing to go day by day. We are focusing on practicing to become a better business owner. So that's what I want to talk about today. Make sure you got your pen, make sure you got your notebook, because today we are talking about the importance of practice and how practice creates opportunities. So I'm your host. Welcome to the Phase Knowledge Podcast. My name is Terryl Humphrey, and today we're going to talk about why practice creates opportunities. I'm not just talking about any type of practice. I'm literally talking about how to practice to become a better business owner. The reason why this topic came about today is because I discovered something. I learned something and I gained more clarity behind the business that I'm doing. That confidence alone taught me that it took a lot of practice, a lot of time, a lot of effort to get to where I'm at today. I want to create a live stream podcast episode and a video around the importance of practice. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. If you don't have your pen, go ahead and get it, because this is going to be a great episode. By the way, before we get started, make sure you hit that follow button, hit that like. And no, don't even worry about the like. Just hit the follow button so you can get all additional videos. So let's dive into it. Point number one, practice. Practice is repetition. Petition. And what that means is the more you practice something, the better you become. For instance, if I want to become a better communicator, a better speaker, I would practice speaking. I remember my first speaking engagement. I was nervous to go out in front of people, the audience, and speak because I thought the audience was going to judge me. In reality, I was judging myself. Why am I sharing this with you? Because many times in life, as a business owner, new business owner, or you're trying to figure out everything that you want to do, challenges will come. And it will never stop appearing. You just start to handle them differently. When I started to speak and I went to the open mic was that opportunity where the new talented out in the public can come, perform. They can do poetry, they can rap, they can sing, they can do music, they can do anything. I decided to do a speech. The speech that I wanted to do did not come out as smooth as I wanted it to. However, I still made effort to show up that day. When I showed up that day, I literally started to understand, like, wait, hold on. It's a process around everything. Every time I go to different places, different events, different locations, these people who are speaking on stage, they speak so fluently. They speak so confidently. They speak so educational. Like they speak with education. They speak with knowledge. And I'm like, how are they able to do that? And then when I start to get around other speakers, other business owners, other thought leaders, I'm asking them, how are y'all able to do this? How are y'all able to be so good at this craft? And they say, man, years and years and years of practice. Practice is repetition, because if you do the same thing over and over and over again, you are practicing. Not only are you practicing, you are becoming better. You are creating opportunities for yourself, and the opportunities come from when no one is there in front of you, when no one is watching, when no one is listening to you. How are you practicing? In other words, how are you showing up? Hold on, let's go a little bit deeper. So showing up leads to self-criticism. And I thought self-criticism, talking down to yourself was a thing that I only did. However, what I discovered is that I wasn't the only one that was talking down to myself. It was just that I didn't have the practice, the time, and the effort to really come out as confidence, to really come out as I know what I'm speaking about, to really come out as a thought leader. What I recognized during that time, practice creates opportunity, because when no one is there watching you, you have to perform at your best. When no one is paying attention to you, you have to perform at your best. When no one is even engaging with your topic, you have to perform at your best. Why? Because practice creates repetition. The more you practice, the more you do, the better you become. Opportunities doesn't just fall into your lap, and they don't fall into my lap. And when I started to understand that, yes, opportunities are out there, there's so many different things that you can do, but what can I do in this moment that will help me create an opportunity for myself today? And it was really practicing. It was really focusing on something that will help me gain the confidence, gain the education, gain the know-how. The know-how only comes from the practice. If I practice, I'm able to understand what I'm doing and how to improve on it. Here's a better thing. As I practice and I go to a coach and I explain what I'm doing, what my goal is, this coach can see my weaknesses and they can say, this is what you need to work on. I did a podcast yesterday, and like after the podcast, I got some great feedback, and that was like, you mind if I give feedback? I said, yeah, absolutely. I encourage feedback. And he was like, just slow down. Just so that, especially when you're talking about failure is knowledge, because he barely understood what I was saying when I was talking like that. So I was like, all right, cool. I appreciate the feedback, because a lot of people don't even give you feedback. Before the conversation yesterday, I've had countless amount of podcast episodes, and I was really able to learn from so many different people. So many people give me feedback. So many people give me testimonials. And when I started to really understand that I'm practicing to become a better communicator, every day I have to practice. It doesn't matter I'm here today. It doesn't matter where you are today. What matters is that you're always trying to improve. You're always trying to get better. You're always trying to grow. When you discover self-growth, self-development, you start to become better. Practice creates opportunities because you're the one that's stepping into the work. And one thing that I always say is that God is always with us, and you have to do the work to meet God halfway. The opportunities that's there, they are there because some people are stepping into their opportunities. Prime example, Kobe Bryant is one of my favorite players. Reason being is because his work ethic. He communicated that his routine was so crazy that he was practicing when no one was in the gym. So that way, when people all around come and watch him play, he's performing at his highest level. Before people come, he's already performing at his highest level. And I'm like, man, that's incredible. Why is that important? That's important because when you perform at your highest level, when it's considered practicing and no one's in front of you, when you get in front of people, people start to say, man, this person is really confident. Man, this person is really educated. Man, this person is great. Opportunities does not come unless you practice to create them. And when I started to understand, I'm like, man, that's crazy. It's like you really have to put the work in. Practice is repetition because you have to constantly put the work in. You have to consistently put the work in. You have to do it on a daily basis to the point where the practice becomes a routine. Why? Because the routine is more like a practice, but the practice is no longer a hobby. The practice is a need. The practice is a force. The practice is what would make you better. Opportunities come from you becoming better. When you create the opportunities for yourself, you have to understand you are pushing yourself forward. Why? Because opportunities come when you create them for yourself. When you do the work. In other words, when you practice to get better. Shout out to Alice Iris. And one day we're going to do a podcast together, have a conversation. Nonetheless, in the interview that he did, he explained the famous quote of we talking about practice, and when he explained it, I got a better context behind it. And I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember exactly what he said, but before he explained it, my perception of what he said during the time we're talking about practice is that yes, we're talking about practice, but why are we talking about practice? Practice is the most important thing that anyone can do, not just in sports, not just in business, not just in life. Practice is something that will help you grow. Practice is something that will help you learn. Practice is something that will help you create opportunities. You cannot create opportunities if you're not willing to practice. When I started to speak at the open mic, I was embarrassed because I literally was thinking about what I wanted to say. I was in my head, I was overwhelmed, and my heart got to beating so fast. It got to beating so fast, I think it skipped a beat. Nonetheless, as my heart was beating fast, I'm like, man, how can I control my breathing? When I start to do it uncomfortably, I'm learning how to perform uncomfortably. When you practice in unforeseen circumstances and circumstances is not predictable, you don't know how you're going to show up. But when you show up based off the practice that you've been putting into this opportunity is going to create. Oh man, that was going to be smooth. I forgot what I was going to say. Opportunity creates the door to be open. And I say that because you have to understand that every door that you step into, you have to find the opportunity. Every time I go to a networking event, I'm looking for opportunity. I'm looking to meet people. I'm looking to communicate with people. I step in with confidence. Why? Because I'm practicing stepping with confidence. Let me tell you why. Because people start to see your confidence. People start to see how you are moving, how you are communicating, how you are reaching out. When I started the Phase Knowledge podcast, people start to say, man, I'm seeing you consistently. I'm seeing you daily. I'm seeing you on a daily basis. Why? Because I want to practice to become better. Practice is not bad. Practice is not scary. In fact, practice is needed for you to create the opportunities. Opportunities only come from when you are prepared, instead of opportunities coming when you are not prepared. They say you got to meet luck and opportunity halfway, because luck meets the opportunity. Opportunity creates the luck. Why? Because the more you practice, the better you become. And let me come back to the screen. Let me come back to the screen. So the reason why, because you have to really be able to adapt to changes, because you never know what you need to change. Hold on. Because you never know what you need to change. Why? Because practice only comes from change. If I'm able to do this podcast episode and I change the presentation and I change the format and I change what's being given, what education, what type of information I'm sharing, I'm learning how to tweak the small details. The details are so important. Yesterday I did a podcast around production and the Super Bowl and how that played a factor in like the entertainment side of it, and my perspective of what I learned, what I gained from it. Even although the Super Bowl was good, I just didn't get entertained from the game. I got entertained from everything. Nonetheless, think about the amount of games that they have during the season to get everything right. Think about the amount of times, the amount of years that they have everything to get in place, because they're constantly practicing and changing. When you change, you are becoming better. As you grow, you are learning. As you learn, you are creating opportunities for yourself. Why? Because you are able to understand that this is something that you have to do. Practice is something that you have to do in order for you to create opportunities for yourself. So the next point I want to hit on, because we just talked about practice and how practice create opportunities. The next point that we're going to hit on is that you have to ask, hold on, I spoke about this earlier, but you have to ask for feedback. You have to ask for feedback. Why? Because feedback feedback discovers ERIES, blind sides. Blind spots. Let's say blind spots. Blind spots. It discovers your blind spots. And what does that even mean? So I did a presentation. Oh, you can't even see this. Hold on. There we go. All right. So number 2, ask for feedback. Feedback discovers blind spots. When I went to Cleveland and when my wife and I went to Cleveland, I did a speaking engagement. Excuse me. And during this speaking engagement, I was speaking, I was talking, I was doing good. And not gonna lie, that presentation was really long. It was really long. At that time, I was trying to figure out like what I wanted to do, the problem to solve, and the language to use, and so on and so forth. As I'm presenting and I'm doing the speaking engagement, I'm like, in my head, I think I did good. I know it's kind of long. I know it was a lot of information on there. That was my goal and my intention. However, like I think I did good. I was confident enough to get up there, talk, and present. What I knew I needed to be better at, I didn't really have the words for it. So I asked. I was like, what was your biggest takeaway? People told me the biggest takeaway. I said, if I can improve on one thing, what do you think I can improve on? Some people say that you are soft-spoken. You might want to, raise your voice just a little bit so the people in the back can hear you. Some people say you talk fast. Some people say that you had a lot of information. Some people say that the information was good, but it was just a lot. How did I get the information? I got that information because I asked for feedback. Feedback is perceived as negative, but in reality, when you receive feedback, it's like, hey man, this is how you can get better. This is what I'm seeing that you're doing. And it's a blind spot because I didn't recognize I was doing it. The reason why feedback is so important, hold on. The reason why feedback is so important, because it gives you a road map of things to work on. And when you have a roadmap of what you need to do, what you are doing only changes based off the feedback that you receive. Some people say that constructive criticism is hard. I'm like, nah, man, I'm open to constructive criticism. Why? Because if I want to get better, I have to be okay with feedback, both negative and positive. It's not even negative. It's like, well, this is my perspective of how you can be better. If you want to continue to get better, just apply the feedback. You don't have to apply it. I don't have to apply the information, but I have to consider it because I'm the one that asked for it. Asking for feedback, watch this. Asking for feedback shows that you care about your craft. Practicing forces you to care about your craft. People only see you today based off where they're going to see you, based off them not seeing you in the past. I saw an interview with Coach Prime, and he said that his best performance was during practice when no one was in the stands. At the time, that didn't make sense, but today it makes sense. Why? Because you have to perform at the highest level before the highest level ever get in front of you. So when the highest level is there, the other highest level, which is the practice of what you've been practicing, it's like it's a playing level field, like it's evenly planned out. Why? Because if the moment is here for the practices that you're doing, and every day you're working to get there, every day you're working to improve, and eventually you will meet it there, but the practice will exceed the expectation because the practice is the focus of the expectation. Why? Because before the moment comes, the moment has to be created. Opportunities only come from when people are able to take action consistently. And when people are able to practice consistently, when people are able to show up consistently. Why? Feedback gives you growth. People when they see you in public, after all the practice that you've been doing, they're going to tell you, hey man, you did good. But what I learned, hey man, you did good does not help me become better. Hold on. Why? Because if I want to get better, if I want to be better, if I want to grow, I got to get feedback. Feedback is not bad. Feedback is not horrible. Feedback is the secret ingredient that will help you grow faster. Why? Because as you are practicing, you are creating opportunities. And when you create opportunities, the feedback that you receive is the feedback that's going to help you grow faster. If you accept the feedback is going to be life changing. Hold on. Let me say that again. If you accept the feedback is going to help you grow. Practice creates opportunities because you have to focus on your growth. You have to focus on yourself and you have to focus on your skill. I did a podcast a couple months ago. And he said a lot of people don't know how to be business owners. A lot of people just know the skill. A lot of people are just creative. But the business side of the creative has to be learned. And when you learn how to be the business of the creative become the business. Hold on. Let's look at Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast is one of the biggest YouTubers there is. This man has over 400 and something subscribers on his YouTube channel. And he might have a lot more subscribers, but I don't know all the data and information. Nonetheless, as I watch different videos, watch different interviews, and the reason, my assumption is just just my opinion, the reason why he's at the top is because he's been practicing for so long. Think about the amount of practice, amount of time, amount of effort that you have to put into your craft in order for your creative to become the business. The business has to be learned, but it only can be learned if it's practice. Practice creates opportunities because opportunities help you become more educated. Opportunities help you receive feedback. Opportunities position you differently because you are learning the business. That's the next point to hit on. It's the last point to hit on. So just to recap right quick. So far we went over practice creates opportunities. Practice is repetition. Like the more you do something, the better you become. Next thing that we talked about was you have to ask for feedback. Feedback is the secret ingredient that will help you grow faster because people are able to you're able to accept constructive criticism. And the last thing that we're going to talk about. Hold on, let me come back to the screen. All right, there we go. Last thing that we're going to talk about right here is, what did I say? Execute. Execute consistently. Execute consistently. I don't know if I even spell consistently right. Golly. Hold on, I'm gonna start over. All right, hold on. All right. ECUTE. All right, there we go. So I know I talked about this earlier. Hold on. Ask for feedback. Practice is repetition. Okay, yeah. Excuse me. Execute consistently. And this one is different from the first point is because execution is so important. It doesn't matter the amount of people that's in front of you. What matters is that you have to continue to do it. The practice of repetition is that you have to do it on a daily basis. And what happened is that when you do it on a daily basis, you are repeating the work. You are repeating the effort. Here's the importance about consistency. I learned this in 2022 before I met my wife. We went to this conference and they was talking about stocks, financials, and so on and so forth. And how to read the chart. By the way, this is not financial advice. This is peer education. So just to confirm, this is just peer education. So in the training, let's just say you got bars. These are bars. And we're looking at whatever business that we're looking at. And it takes off, takes off, and then it drops. All right, cool. So what is that? What does that looks like? So This is like an example of the stock market, and it's a chart. Example of the chart. In business, you have moments when you are growing. Hold on. Let me come back to the screen. Hold on. All right, cool. In business, you have moments when you are growing. And then you have moments when you decline. And then you have moments when you figure it out. Then you growing. Then there's another stopping point that you have to go to. And now everything is just coming down because life is happening. Okay. What is that example of? That is an example of consistency. It doesn't matter how well you are doing, okay? It matters if you keep showing up, okay? The reason why you keep showing up, because life is unpredictable, business is unpredictable, and eventually you will get to a point where you take off. But before you take off, you have to be okay with the down moments. Before you take off, you have to be okay with the good moments. Before you take off, you have to be okay with any moment. Why? Because life is going to life, and until you understand what you are doing to become better, you are learning how to show up consistently. Because regardless of if it's raining outside, regardless of if it's sunny outside, regardless of if it's snowing outside, regardless of if the weather is cold, you have to show up consistently. You just have to adapt to the weather. Okay, hold on. You gotta adapt to the weather, because when you adapt to changes, you are practicing having opportunities. You might not see the opportunity that's in front of you, but if you keep going, the opportunity will be presented right in front of you. Why? Because it gives you hope. It gives you grace. It gives you meaning behind everything that you're doing. You're not doing what you're doing for no reason. In fact, you're doing what you're doing for a reason, but the reason has to be consistent. You have to do it daily. You have to do it nightly. You have to do it weekly. You have to do it monthly. You have to do it yearly, because the more you do it, check this out, the more opportunities you will have. It's the opportunities that make a difference. It's the opportunities that come from the practice. It's the opportunities that gives you the confidence to say that you are doing something right. It might not seem like it's right because it's a down moment. It might not seem like it's right because there's no water in the water bottle. It might seem like it's hot because there's a full water bottle. You see, the difference between an empty water bottle and a full water bottle is that there's something in the water bottle, yet the bottle that's supposed to be empty ain't all the way empty. Why? Because the emptiness is only there when the water is gone. In other words, when the water is gone, the hope is gone. When there is hope, there's a new water bottle. Hold on. Why? Because there's belief within everything that you're doing. Practice creates opportunities, because it might feel like a down moment. You might feel like there's nothing there to give you encouragement. You might feel like everything's not going your way in life. But then something happened. Then you figure it out. Then you start to transition your thought process. And now you got hope. Now you got some water. Now you can literally drink the water, because now you are able to have the confidence from the practice. Check this out. Hold on. That was the first time I ever improv the water like that. But I wanted to give a visual, an example of what it looks like to have no hope. Having no hope is having no water. Having hope is having water. But I tell you this, when you don't have water, when you don't have hope, are you consistently practicing to create the hope? You see, you can't get full if you've never been empty. You can't get full if you've never been empty. Why? Because the emptiness creates opportunities. The emptiness creates hope, because you have to be willing to practice when there is no hope. You have to be willing to show up when the hope is very limited. You have to be willing to show up as the hope comes and goes. It's the hope that creates opportunity, because the more you practice, the more you get good, the more you will become better. The analogy that I used with the water was a great example. I was like, oh, this is good. This is golden. Why? Because practice creates opportunities. You never know where you're going to be, so you have to be okay with where you are at so you can prepare for where you want to be. Oh. When you prepare for where you want to be, you're going to be where you're going to go. So just to recap, because I tell you, like, it's so incredible to learn how to become a better business owner, because I'm practicing to become a better business owner. Practice creates opportunities. And there's another saying to say, practice makes perfect. Well, practice creates opportunity. You can't be perfect unless you are able to practice when you are bad. So we just went over, practice create opportunities. That was the title of the video. Practice is repetition. The more you do something, the better you become. The next point that we talked about was ask for feedback. Feedback is the secret ingredient that will help others, help your practice improve drastically. And the last thing that we talked about was to execute consistently. Even when you have moments that are good, when you have moments that are down, when you have moments that are good, when you have moments that are down, then eventually you take off. But before you get to that point where you're taking off, you got to go through the motion. You got to go through the moment and really understand that you're practicing to become better. So make sure you hit that follow button, hit that like. Let me know in the comments your biggest takeaway. Why practice creates opportunity. I would love to read it. And for the people who leave a comment, I'm going to actually read the comments in my live in the next video tomorrow, so that way we can talk about what we spoke about today and speak about what you talked about, so we can have like that'll be good. So for the people who leave a comment, your biggest takeaway on why practice creates opportunities, I'm going to read it live. So let me know, tag me in it, so that way I can read it live and tag you in the post as well. So this has been great. Hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button. I appreciate y'all, and then I'll see y'all on the next one.